In the solitary regions of green valleys and the confluence of the rivers, the sages obtain divine intuition.
These are the cloud forests of Mahabaleshwar in the hills just off the west coast of India. Brahmaranya, the forest of Brahma, where once upon a time the rishis in meditation reached unknown shores of wisdom. A very special river comes to life here, captured from the heavens by these stunted trees, nurtured by this land, and worshipped by its people. Under this man-made edifice, a mysterious spring hides and turns into a goddess. Goddess Krishna, you satisfy man's quest to find meaning in life by turning yourself into an object of worship. From the Panchaganga temple, through an underground tunnel, the river emerges here. Once again, she disappears into the thick bushes, plunging down 1,500 feet into the Jor Valley, beginning her long eastward journey. Krishna, let me come with you along your course into the past and the present. Let me make your quest mine. Unheeding man-made boundaries from a time before history, you have traced a line of fate on the palm of this land, stretching from these hills to the Andhra coast 1,280 kilometers away. Many a civilization has flared its petals and faded on your banks. You make me understand the passage of time and the great cycles of nature. In your waters are engraved stories of human endeavor. This is Sir. He has grown up in the house next to the Panchaganga temple, listening to the footfalls of the river. Born in a priestly Brahmin family and yet an erstwhile hunter and a beekeeper, he is full of jungle lore and stories. This year, Karvi has bloomed after 7 years of forgetfulness. All the hills are painted purple. Karvia calosa is an ecologically important shrub since it grows on hill slopes and protects them from erosion. Interestingly, it flowers once in 8 years and then dies, leaving behind the seeds for the next generation. I remember Sir talking about tigers walking through the forest with the sticky Karvi nectar on their coats and often howling in exasperation, trying to get rid of it. Now there are no tigers, but these Karvi flowers will yield a lot of honey this year. Strangely, my mind echoes with the ancient conversation between Uddalak the seer and Shvetaketu, his son, from the Chandogya Upanishad.
My son, there is nothing in honey whereby the juice of a particular flower can be identified. So it is with the various creatures who merge in that being. That being is the seed. All else but his expression. He is truth. He is self. Shvetaketu, you are that. My son, rivers flowing east and west rise from the sea, return to the sea itself. Forget their identities. They do not know that they have risen from that being or returned to that being. That being is the sea. All else but his expression. He is truth. He is self. Shvetaketu, you are that.
As the river drops down from the Mahabaleshwar hills, a little further down is Vai, the ancient town of Viratanagari, where the Pandavas spent the last year of their exile in disguise. Here, epic mythology seems like historical fact. Close by was the ashram of Dhamya Rishi, thousands of years ago. The story goes that Aruni, his faithful disciple, who was on night vigil, had stemmed a breach in the Band wall with his own body. He lay there the whole night, lest the waters flood the ashram. Today, this modern dam, named after Dhamya Rishi, is a quaint reminder of that story. This temple and these salvaged statues give us a glimpse of what those times would have been like. Oh, our obsession with purification. First the clothes, then the souls. No matter if we leave the environment in a big mess. The Dholia Ganpati, of course, watches all. This land has also played host to the great Karma Yogi, the warrior king Shivaji. In the year 1659, your banks in Vai were the scene of the last halt of Afzal Khan, the general of Bijapur, before he was killed in his encounter with Shivaji at Pratapgarh. The Krishna Mai festival in Vai, where you are worshipped in the 7 main ghats, started as a celebration of this victory. Music recitals and great feasts are as much a part of the festival as this strange ritual of making the river wear a sari. Shivaji's Guru Swami Ramdas wandered along your course. He showed Shivaji the true dharma of a king, who even when deeply engrossed in the affairs of the state, has his mind firmly set on God. Just behind your source temple in Mahabaleshwar, this Maruti, installed by Swami Ramdas, urges me to be strong both in the mind and the body. Balam upasva. Na ayam atma balhinena labhya. A weakling cannot aspire towards salvation. Images that flitted across your waters changed like the patterns of a kaleidoscope. The woman still fetches water from your bank. The same human beings, the same feelings and thoughts, the same sky and the land, yet fitted into such different patterns.
Krishna Sant Vahate Krishna
During the month of Ashar, when your streams are coalescing in the sky on the crescent-shaped curve of one of your tributaries, the Bhima, another kind of fusion is taking place. Here, all the streams of thoughts are emptying into the ocean of devotion. Someone has rightly said that India is a land and a people intoxicated with God. We have searched for God in everything, whether it is thought or action, image or imagination, rock or river.
I do not crave for riches and fame, neither do I want salvation. But let me not forget you even for a moment.
The Varkari Bhakti movement can be traced back to late 13th century. The Varkari, or the pilgrim, still comes from distant lands, sometimes walking for months to come to his beloved God, Vitthal. This Bhakti movement is characterized by a total disregard for class and caste distinctions, and also by the acceptance of spoken dialects in devotional practices. When God is addressed in the mother tongue, it is as if he is standing somewhere close by, turning into a mother, a child, or a lover. In Jnaneshwar, we find a blend of devotion and abstract meditation, of intellect and emotion. Here, bhakti and jnana join like two flames, like two drops. In the great wave of devotion, even the different forms of God dissolve. The black stone deity of Vitthal carries a shivling on his head. Here's a Vishnu, the preserver, meditating on Shiva, the destroyer. Life and death complementing each other. About 8 centuries ago, Namdev, the poet saint, carried Vitthal in his heart from the banks of Bhima, Chandrabhaga, to the land of the 5 rivers, Punjab. Vitthal even finds a place in the Guru Granth Sahib. Raichur. The Bhima of Pandharpur meets you here. I'm reminded of Saint Muktabai, an adolescent girl who compares her spiritual quest to that of an ant that flies up and swallows the sun.
Death trembles before a champak bat. Knowledge and madness go together. The inexpressible is revealed in the heart, yet people follow strange ways.
The basin of Bhima and Krishna nurtured another bhakti poet, the Sufi saint and a scholar of the Upanishads, Banda Nawaz Gizu Daraz of Gulbarga. He was a contemporary of Kabir. For him, Sama, or listening to the musical recitation of Qawwali, was an important way of reaching out to God. Monsoon clouds gather. We are at Audumbar. About 100 years ago, what the poet Vasudevanand sang for you still echoes in the hearts of the people here. Namaha Shri Krishne, Jai Shamit Trishne, Gurumate. Salutations to you, Goddess Krishna, who quenches the thirst of the mind and the body. Here, I meet another god, Dattatreya, often represented by this ficus tree. He symbolizes the trinity of creation, preservation, and destruction, the eternal striving of the human mind to find an image of God. Close by is Narsobachi Wadi. Narasimha Swami, who everyone venerates as an avatar of Datta, lived here for some time. I realize I'm standing at the doorstep of the sanctum of feelings. How vain is my attempt to document this experience. You may imitate the whistle of the bulbul, but how can you know what he feels for the rose? I'm reminded of Dikshit sir. He often cited this couplet from Masnavi, the Zoroastrian sacred book. Garbe amuzi, safire bulbuli, tuche dani keuche, darad bagulo. Sometimes you are a goddess with 4 hands. Sometimes you turn into water, just water. Volumes of water, slaking the thirst of the parched earth. We are at Khidrapur, a small village on the Maharashtra-Karnataka border. With what tenderness and affection these stones have been shaped. There are tales within tales, gods like mortals and mortals like gods. There's hardly any statue which hasn't been broken. The iconoclast fury stemming as much from ignorance as from intolerance. Hiding this anguish in her heart, the river moves on to Karnataka. We reach Kudala Sangam, where the rivers Malaprabha and Ghataprabha join you. Here, the poet Basavanna in the 12th century addresses his God as the Lord of the meeting rivers.
The waters of joy broke the banks and ran out of my eyes. I touched and joined my Lord of the meeting rivers. How can I talk to anyone of that? The rich will make temples for Shiva. What shall I, a poor man, do? My legs are pillars, the body the shrine, the head a cupola of gold.
Strange that now one lands up creating temples and institutions in memory of him who precisely stood against this. I recall my French teacher saying, "Les révolutions d'aujourd'hui sont les institutions de demain." The revolutions of today are the institutions of tomorrow. Mahadevi Akka, the poetess saint who perhaps followed your course, seeking her Lord, white as jasmine. This happened about 900 years ago. She wandered, deeply in love with God, just covered with her tresses, throwing modesty and clothing in a gesture of social defiance. Her verses in Kannada give glimpses of her mind.
When all the world is the eye of the Lord, on looking everywhere, what can you cover and conceal? To the shameless girl, wearing the white jasmine Lord's light of morning, you fool, where's the need for cover and jewel?
Krishna, you embody the spirit of Akka. In your waters, I hear her voice.
Don't say they have bodies who have your love. O Lord, white as jasmine.
Do not look for the source of a river or the lineage of a sadhu. Intrigued, I'm lured back upstream. I try to find the source of the Koyna, one of your tributaries. Where do your waters come from? From the sky or from the depths of the earth? The sun, the moon, the distant stars. The entire universe has labored to produce each magic drop that flows in your veins. And as much as your waters are finally brought here by the winds of the monsoon, they are also the unseen and the silent toil of these trees. Man, in his vain attempt to worship this mystery, has brought all the 5 rivers here. But Dikshit sir had shown me the actual source of the Koyna, which is now hidden deep under rock. This mere trickle later turns enormous and joins you at Karad. I'm on my way to Srisailam to meet Akka's Lord, Mallikarjun. The mind hovers and I'm overcome by strange thoughts and feelings. Here on this hillock, where the Tungabhadra meets the Krishna, lives this saint worshipping Jogalamba, the goddess Kali, the destroyer of time. Why must God always be beautiful? Isn't this beyond the good and the evil? This image of Bhudevi, a fertility goddess, throws light on the dim past of the pre-Vedic India more than 5,000 years ago. The characteristic of this ancient land is that largesse d'esprit, which can accommodate so many truths like the pages of an endless book.
Allahu Akbar Allah.
You are the forest. You're all the great trees in the forest. You are birds and beasts playing in and out of all the trees. O Lord, white as jasmine, filling and filled by all. Why don't you show me your face? Since your love was planted, I've forgotten hunger, thirst, and sleep. Puppet at the end of a string, I've played as you've played. I've been as you've let me be. I've run till you cried halt.
Finally, Akka Mahadevi meets her beloved here. The silence of these caves still echoes their whispers. At Srisailam, this is the temple of Mallikarjun, Akka's Lord, white as jasmine. The sacred ceremony of the draping of the temple takes place at midnight. Shivratri is being celebrated with great splendor. Shiv is the lord of the Chenchu tribals here. Even kings like Chandragupta and Shivaji came to bow their heads to him. this day and age, there is no escaping technology. Shankaracharya, the great Advait philosopher saint, went down to bathe in your waters and did tapasya here. Advaitism sees no difference between the seeker and God, the whole universe being an expression of the self.
Aham brahmasmi yo veda sa sarvam bhavati tvidam. Aham brahma.
You are Patal Ganga here. My mind reasons why you and the Ganga are the same. You both lose your identities in the Bay of Bengal and rise again with the monsoon clouds. And when I see the same devotion at Haridwar on the banks of the Ganga and in your temple at Mahabaleshwar, O Krishna, I realize how everything is connected. Everything is a manifestation of the One. We are at Nagarjun Sagar, the ancient site of a flourishing Buddhist culture. Here, in these remains, we see a distinct progression in the way the form of Buddha is depicted, as if the outpouring devotion needed to be contained in some form. The minimalist symbolic presence assumes a human shape. In the dark recesses of the worshipping mind lies the Buddha, glowing like a god. Buddha, who refrained from even talking about God, lands up becoming one himself. And before you know it, he's one of the 10 avatars of Vishnu, now assimilated as yet another god in the Hindu pantheon. If God created man in his image, man too creates God in his own image. And who created whom remains forever a mystery.
Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami.
The Buddha multiplies, and Buddhism itself becomes more and more complex. Images from the Tibetan paintings come floating to my mind, as if the essence explodes into millions of twinkling divinities. We have Mahayana and later Vajrayana with its paraphernalia of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas and goddesses. Sexual metaphors seep in. The stampede of time reduces all to dust. Looking at the simple stoop on your banks here at Amravati, one would hardly imagine that it is these stones that have seen the evolution of Buddhism for more than 1,000 years, from the simple middle path of Buddha to the complex ritualism of Vajrayana. If the Buddha is invincible to the blows of Mara, the lord of death, illusion, and temptation, the tantric practitioner welcomes the encounter head on and uses it as a means for attaining enlightenment. The mystic duly dwells on the manifold merits of his divinity. He delights in thoughts of passion, and by the enjoyment of passion is set free. Thus exclaimed Aryadev, a 7th century tantric practitioner. Many fingers pointing to the glory of the moon. Lifestyles change, values change, but who can curb your innate strength? Somewhere down the line, we forgot our ancient wisdom of living in harmony with nature. Once you were the Diamond River. So many of the world's best known diamonds were found on your banks. The Kohinoor, the jewel now in the British Crown, comes from these parts. We have reached Vijayawada, where you seem to grow restless to meet the ocean and turn into many streams moving towards a common destiny. For an Indian, all art is symbolic of religious ideas. All worship is an expression of life. All life, a manifestation of the infinite being. This dance form is called Kuchipudi. A village by the same name, very close to Vijayawada, is the birthplace of Siddhendra Yogi, who evolved this dance form. Today is Vijaya Dashmi, and they are celebrating the festival of goddess Durga. A strange frenzy permeates the air.
O God, forgive my little jokes on thee, and I shall forgive thy great big one on me,
Exclaimed a rishi thousands of years ago. One is amused by the strange sight of a Gandhi counting hard-earned money. This search for meaning takes many forms, sometimes spectacular, sometimes humbly woven into our everyday lives, our hearts to God and our hands to work. The Kalamkari craftsman is a karma yogi who is perhaps seeking God through his work. What is this quest? What is this quest which makes a man turn clay into God and stone into a Nandi that bows down in reverence at the threshold? The same quest has brought us to the beginning of the journey. But before we start looking for a God outside us all over again, before you rise from the seas to fall back on the ground, let me leave you here to rest for a while. The infinite calm of the skies rests on the lips of the waves. The thin line of horizon seals the vision of longing, and God is as if he were not.